Hey,
Yes,
Chris. Good
sir. Good
morning.
morning.
Hey, I'm curious. Do we ever tell anything that might actually work?
Never. We just do this for fun because I
We
like
just
to
make
hear
shit up
myself.
and say, hey, go experiment and see if what we said works.
I like to hear myself speaking. I'm just sending out the invite real quick too.
Oh, I forgot to do that. Yeah.
I'm doing it right now. I got you.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah, we've been talking about a lot of stuff. There's a boom here. There's buyers that are buying. There's sellers that are selling. There's a lot going on for those who are getting engaged. There's and we do talk about a lot of things with opportunities that you can literally take a buyer and turn them into a active buyer now, giving them anywhere from 40, $50,000 to $100,000 in more purchasing power just by using some of the strategies that we've been talking about. And
And
these strategies are everywhere. They're accessible to everybody. I don't care where you're at, where your office is, what area you're working in. Every single one of you has within probably 30 minutes of where you're working, within 30 to 40 minutes of where you're working, there's going to be new construction sitting all around you, and you all have an opportunity to utilize this and touch base with buyers who are already in your pipeline, letting them know that, hey, I know we've been looking for a home. And I know we haven't really found exactly what you're looking for because we're looking for this and this and this and this, and our approval just isn't really getting us to where you want it to be. Why don't we take a different approach?
well, let me back up just for a second because it used to be, those of you who've been doing this for a while, if you follow the protocol, you go to a loan officer, they check your employment records, they check your credit score, and as a result of that, they give you a magic ticket that says you are qualified to buy a house worth X. Right? Now, what goes into that qualification? The interest rate, the property taxes, the insurance rates, the CDD, the HOA, all those factors combined. And a good loan officer is going to put all that together and say, based on this information, you can afford a house worth X. Now, which of those categories are variable?
The interest rate is.
Almost all of them, right? Depending on where you're looking. Could you be in an area that has flood insurance and looking at another area that doesn't have flood insurance?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
What happens to your buying power if there's no flood insurance required?
It increases.
It increases. Can you get lesser insurance cost in a newer home than an older home? Yes.
Yeah,
So your
absolutely.
buying power goes up with insurance rates, right? Property taxes for short term can make a difference, right? Generally speaking, if you're going to be right, you're going to use your estimated property taxes the right way. Interest
Hmm.
rates probably the biggest factor. So interesting. Well, you've got a story. I want to let you get into your story without making it up. But understand, just because you have a golden ticket that says you can qualify for this, that's based on that. But there are other variables that can change.
Well, one of the very first buyers I ever worked with, I made a mistake, and we got him under contract for a property without sending the property to the mortgage broker first. Like we had tried with a couple, we went through a few options and sent them over to the mortgage broker, and everything looked good with all the previous properties, numbers lined up, and he was approved, but we just couldn't get to a negotiated number. But when we finally got him under contract and submitted the property over to the mortgage broker because I didn't give it to him before we finalized the contract. I said, hey, can you run this one at this price? It was in the same neighborhood. It was the same price. The taxes were, everything was pretty much the same, except there was one difference. This section of the neighborhood had a second HOA.
Uh-oh.
And that second HOA was like $80 a month. So when the mortgage broker got that and ran everything, even though we were under contract already, he came back and he said, hey man, I got bad news. So what? He goes, when I ran everything, he goes, he don't qualify for this one anymore. The taxes are a little bit higher, and the HOA, the second HOA, puts him out of contention. So everybody's made that mistake or something similar to that before. So just first of all, make sure that you're sending properties to your mortgage broker before you start going shopping or start writing offers. But we've got an agent who's got buyers, and they went and they got pre-approved. They're pre-approved for right around that $350,000 mark.
Mhm.
And for those of you who know, when you're looking at that $350,000 mark in most of your areas, it doesn't really get you a ton of options. I mean, you're kind of limited. It's going to be about this size. It's not going to be exactly what you need. You probably want to have a few extra updates. You probably want to be in a little bit of a different neighborhood. So you're kind of settling when you're in that $350,000 price point. You can buy something, but it may not be exactly what you want.
Well, let's back up just a little bit there because this couple are renting in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
So they're kind of pigeonholed into, oh, well, this is where I can afford to live because this is where I'm living and the rents are about what the mortgage payments are going to be. So in their mind, and I use the word pigeonholed because that's where they think they are. And then our agent comes in with superior knowledge, which is one of the values we bring. I don't want you guys thinking that, all we do is open doors and show houses because that is out. They can do, I was reading an article this morning about AI, and AI is now working with Zillow that if you put any home search criteria into ChatGPT, it's taking you directly to Zillow now. And what's Zillow going to do? It's going to tell you in that price range, there's this many houses, click here to go see them. That value that you bring is over. But this consumer who's sitting there saying, oh, I can only afford a 350 house and I can only live in this neighborhood because of that range. And then an agent comes in with more education and it changes. So watch this.
Yeah, so she's sitting there talking. She goes, "Yeah, I'm going to take him out this weekend." And I was like, "Hey, have you remember when this builder came in?" She goes, "Oh yeah." He goes, "That's a good idea. I'm going to call him." And the reason why we brought that up is because we had a builder that came in and said, "Hey, I've got properties and they're in this price range." It was around the $450,000 price range. And at $450,000, they had quick move-in homes at 4.25% interest rates. Quick move-in, 4.25% interest rate at $450,000. And when we look at the $450,000 price point and a 4.25% interest rate, we, in the middle of our meeting, we reverse engineered the numbers. And those numbers came out to be you can afford a $350,000 home at our current 6.25, 6.35% interest rate, or you can go to a new construction builder and buy a $450,000 home at 4.25% interest rate for the same price. That was the conversation that we literally had just the week before. And
Mm-hmm.
Harry showed us all the properties. He said, and when we pre-qualify taxes,
Mm-hmm.
so that we make sure that their payment is going to be in line. We use the property appraiser number, we use our insurance company's number, we use all of the numbers that we have and put them in so we have an accurate number that isn't going to adjust drastically after that first year or two and jump up like $700 or $800 a month, like some people do when they go to new construction. So he's saying we've got all of the numbers in the right place that you can literally buy a $450,000 home for the same approval that they have as a $350,000 approval with a regular lender because these builders have incentives. So here, let me share something with you. And this is, if you don't mind, give me an option to share.
You got it.
So we got this. This was what, and you'll see her name. This is Miss Susie Brush, and she's online. So kudos to you. We give high fives to Susie for taking the initiative and bringing them into
Well, for
these.
two things. One is taking the initiative in helping the consumer, but two is taking credit for it to share her wealth of knowledge with her database. And Susie has a large database on social media.
Yep. Said, and this is what she shared because she had an awesome experience. She took them from one builder right across the street from where they live, and she ended up going down the road about 12 to 15 minutes down the road to a different builder because they actually had a better price on the same model right down the road. So she posted, "Did you know that some builders are offering lower interest rates and thousands in incentives right now? Yesterday, I helped a sweet military family buy a beautiful brand new home that would have been $100,000 out of reach with today's typical mortgage rates. The builder stepped in with $40,000 in incentives, enough to buy their rate down to 4.25%, cover closing costs, and even reduce the price of the home. Now they're moving into a gorgeous pond view home with no backyard neighbors and tons of upgrades. And the best part, it's already built, so they're moving in next month. If you've been on the fence about buying, now might be the time. These builder incentives won't last long. This market is heating up." That is perfect.
Yes.
Literally perfect. That's exactly what we want to see you guys sharing. And you don't need to have that opportunity yourself. Just go find the post from Susie Brush and
One
take
of
that
my
same
friends
post
just posted this. Boom.
and make it your own and say, did you know one of my teammates and colleagues just had this happen to them? Did you know you can afford a home for that's $100,000 more and pay the same price as if it was $350,000? Let me tell you how. Andrea DiFilippo, same thing happened to me last week with a client, went under contract in Waterset with Pulte Homes. So there are offers and there are opportunities out there for all of your buyers. This is just an opportunity to have a conversation. So we need to take this information, share it to all of your buyers. Any buyer who's been on the fence, now is the time to buy between now and the end of the year. If they do not do this before the end of the year, these incentives are more than likely going to be gone. They're going to lose the rate buy down to 4.25%. They're actually probably going to end up at 3.99% in another 2 weeks to 30 days, depending on what else happens inside their sales meetings. And but those are going to go away by the end of the year. All of the $40,000 to $70,000 in incentives that they're giving is probably going to go away. But now's a great time. Any buyer who is on the fence, you can afford about $100,000 more just because of that. The buyer, as Susie says, the buyers are absolutely thrilled. They didn't imagine how they could get a brand new house that fit their large family. Otherwise, they would have been pigeonholed into a smaller home for a larger family because they can only afford their 350 budget with their interest rate at 6.25. Awesome opportunity. You guys just need to start taking advantage of this and start talking about it a little bit more. And we can put some buyers into a fixed rate mortgage of 4.25%.
And I don't want to sound weird about this, but Chris, you have a statement that sticks in my head. If you hang around with 9 smokers, you're going to be the 10th,
Yeah.
right? When you are renting, what are most of your friends doing?
Rent.
Rent. So when you buy your home, what are you likely going to do? Have a home warming party, housewarming party.
Hmm.
And who are you
Oh,
going to invite?
your friend. Funny story because I messaged Susie and said, Susie, awesome job. So proud of you. That's awesome. I'm sure the buyers love you to death. She goes, yeah. And their friends want to be their neighbors. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. And guess what? That's what happens in neighborhoods, right? John and Mary buy a house here and they're 30 years old. And then their friends buy and they're 30 years old. And 20 years later, they're all in their 50s. And then they want to sell and move to an active adult. I mean, neighborhoods just re-proliferate themselves. And then things come in.
Yeah, I mean, this is a situation where this buyer, number one, Susie, you would have been spending probably 3 months with them trying to find 3 to 4 months with them trying to find them the home, and they're going to be disappointed, and then they're going to lower their standards and settle for something that they feel good about, but they don't feel great about, and they were just going to settle, and they were going to move into an area, wasn't going to be the neighborhood, probably wasn't going to be the place they want their kids to go to school, was going to be further away from their job, wasn't going to be exactly what they wanted. They were going to be settling. But because she took the initiative of having that conversation, she called the builder and said, hey, what do you got? What's going on? When can we come in? Went in, talked with them, and they said, yeah, we actually have some of these. Well, if they like that floor plan, we also have it over here. So they looked there and got a better price there. So we got them everything they could dream of because we're using the stories that we have from other agents and we're connecting people with opportunities that are available. But you need to make sure that you're having these conversations. If you're not having these conversations, your buyer is missing out and you're missing out. This builder is also offering a 2.5 to 3% compensation depending on the property. So
Yeah.
your compensation is covered. The buyer doesn't have to pay any of it because they're covering all of their closing costs. They're getting everything they need, and it's a perfectly updated home. Everything's included basally.
And it's
And
got a
it
warranty for
was
the next
it
X
was
amount of
a
years.
Pulte was the builder that was doing this product. So
Yep.
Pulte is the builder that did that one.
Here's a little secret that goes along with that. Diane Ledzinski, who's since retired, but she did an amazing thing. Diane joined us as a retired print school principal. We have a lot of really successful retired school principals. And she worked her neighborhood. It was Sun City Center. And what she did is every time she sold a house, she hosted the buyer's warm party, welcoming party. And she didn't wear her name badge. She didn't do anything like. She just stayed there and she served wine and brought cheese and crackers. and just made a nice little soft thing and invited the neighbors. Well, the neighbors figured she was just the guru who got all this stuff done. So secretly, she was prospecting for listings under the guise of holding an open house for the buyers' friends. What a cool thing for her. So she met a whole lot of people. She really was prospecting under the guise of throwing a party. So Susie could do that in that neighborhood, invite all their friends, and she can buy the wine and cheese and have it a nice little event and say, oh, by the way, maybe have Logan be there with you. Hint, hint, nudge,
Mhm.
nudge. Not a bad thought. No, Susie, great
Very.
job. And Susie's a really good agent too, who, I mean, Susie calls me a lot, and I appreciate it. Hey, I'm just thinking this through. I want to make sure I do a good job. That's what makes an agent a really good agent, right? They call for advice and say, how about this? Because it's sometimes hard to read the prescription when you're inside the bottle, right?
Yep.
So that was fun. So Chris called me this morning and said, hey, I got this. I want to share it. I think it's really good news. And
Yep.
now you're stuck with your analytical broker who's just going to say, oh, I got all these things I want to talk about. Um, I'm not kidding. Every day I get an email from the real estate commission or from a board saying, we're going to cut off your MLS access as a company because your agent didn't get their education. And so we passed that deadline for September. The next deadline is coming up in March. So let me ask you, is it better to wait till the end of March to take your continuing education? Or is it better to get it done and out of the way now so you don't have to stress over it later? What happens if in March of this year you get super busy and you got 8 or 9 contracts going? When are you going to take the time to either do your 14-hour continuing ed, or if you're newly licensed in the first 2 years, do your 45 hours of continuing ed, right? And I get it. You go to real estate school and they just dump a whole bunch of information on you, most of which is irrelevant, right? What's the fine going to be if you do this, that, or the other? But it is relevant if you get into that situation. So I took my continuing education class and I did it the way I do it, which may not be normal, but I've just done it for so long. I just take the test and I submit it to see if I'm smart enough to pass. And typically I'm smart enough to pass. So that's it. But then I read the book for fun. That means I'm bored and came up with, oh shit, there's a lot of things in here that really we totally forget about. And then this weekend I was driving around and I'm looking at yard signs. And these yard signs I'm looking at are 100% illegal. It's an agent, full size body picture on the sign, grandiose statements, my integrity is wonderful. And I'm going, who do they work for? And I'm driving by and I can't tell. And that is a violation of the Florida Real Estate Commission. 100%. Why? Because Florida is still, like it or not, it's a broker-driven state. So you're never going to sue an agent without suing their broker,
Hmm.
right? The public needs to know who the responsible party is. And agents, by law, are a sub-agent of the broker.
Yes.
And in this case, I'm the broker, but I qualify the brokerage company, Beggins Enterprises or BE3 or List with Beggins. Those are your brokerage companies, but there's a broker standing behind them who's the responsible party. And in the event the public is damaged, they want to go after the responsible party, and you have to make that readily observable, right? So the whatever team, I'm not trying to slander anybody, you can't find them and they're not registered with the real estate commission. So who do they go after? And it becomes a problem. And there's severe fines for that. So I was going to show you just a couple case studies that I read that I didn't think about ever being real or not, but things happen. And we took this class a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 15 years ago, where they talk about all this stuff and then you forget. Now, I know we have people in our company and no judgment against them at all that maybe had a mishap with the law. And when you have a mishap with the law, what do you have to do?
Report it.
You have to report it to the real estate commission. So I'm not going to read all these questions, but it goes through a case study of somebody who got a criminal history report after their license and they didn't tell the real estate commission. And somebody found out and reported them to the real estate commission. How easy is it to report a violation to the real estate commission?
Very easy.
You go to myfloridalicense.com, look up a licensee and say report a violation. Click a button, fill out some questions, hit submit. It's that simple, right? And now there's a big thing about practicing law without it, or practicing real estate without a license, as much as practicing law without a degree, right? So it's that easy to verify, and the fines are hard. So here's one. The respondent submitted an application for a sales associate license exam. They answered no to the first question on the application, which asked whether the applicant had ever been convicted of a crime or pleaded nolo contendere. We've all seen that question. And they said
Mhm.
no. Well, they had been. Long story short, there are a whole bunch of questions to go around it. The penalty was revocation. The real estate company revoked their real estate license. So it means I can't sell real estate anymore. That's a pretty serious crime, if something were to happen to you. So if you get a DUI or something like that, you got to report it. If you report it, chances are they're going to let you slide. It really is.
Yeah, I had a friend who got their real estate license. This is a long time before I had mine. And he had some pretty severe charges on his record from when he was 18 years old, 18, 19 years old. Like massive drug charges, like all kind, like pretty big stuff. Like he had felonies and he was
Mhm.
still able to get his real estate license.
Yes.
He filled out the application. He had to go sit in front of the real estate commission and plead with them and tell them, like, they ask you questions and tell you that. Then he had to go back a second time and they approved him. So, like, it doesn't, none of this means that you're going to lose your license, but you have to be able to tell the truth. That's
Close.
one of the big things. That's why fraud is a big thing in real estate. And that's why certain felonies are rated higher than others for them because they want to make sure that you're not going to be fraudulent. You're going to tell the truth because you're dealing with the public. And there's a lot of money that's involved and there's a lot of trust that's involved. So they have to be able to trust you.
Yeah. Very cool. All right, I'm gonna hit some of these questions real fast. So the Building Safety Act requires building safety inspections for what? Because we hear these things and go, oh, it's everything, right? And they give you a bunch of multiple questions. And the answer to the question is certain condominium and cooperative association buildings are affected by the Building Safety Act. Which buildings are affected of the condos and cooperatives? Is it every building? Every condominium is affected by it? No. Three
Ones
stories
that
or
are
more.
3 stories or more.
3 stories or more. Why would that be? Structural integrity. What happened? So this is why our contracts are so long. Because somebody sometimes something did something wrong and somebody sued and a court made a ruling and that ruling's now precedent, so it's now added to the contract. So when that Sunrise building fell down in Miami, it created a big surge and pointed out the fact there's a lot of old condominiums that are near the water that have become not structurally valid. And the homeowner, the condominium purchaser, has a right to know, which now puts the onus on the condominium association to verify the integrity of the building. And if it's not, they have to take measures to fix it. And those measures, in many cases, are super expensive. When I was over at the beach, I was walking up and down the beach, and these things are getting, I mean, there's scaffolds up 5, 8 stories. They're taking the entire exterior skeleton off of the building, fixing it behind the scenes, and then redoing it all. That is millions of dollars. Now, there might be 200 units in the complex, but I don't care. Take a couple $1 million divided by 200. Those assessments, if they don't have the reserves, which they don't, are going to be pretty stiff. And a buyer has the right to know that, which is why we have so many condos. And credit to Joe Diener, he's become our condo guy. So if you're ever in doubt, there's your answer guy.
Yeah, that's why. And that is why the condo and townhome portion of sales has definitely slowed down in Florida because we have so many associations and so many of them had to raise money, put assessments in place, caused assessments to go up, created a little bit of fear. And then the condo market has become a little flooded with people trying to sell because of some of those assessments, and the buyers are a little slower to decide. So
Yep.
that's the general overall just
And the
approach.
lenders are afraid to lend because what
Yeah,
happens? Their collateral is not going to get paid back.
correct. Yeah.
Question number two, a milestone inspection is an inspection of a building's what?
Structural integrity.
Nailed it. Question, multiple question C, the structural integrity of the building. Who's licensed to provide that study? This is question three. A licensed architect or engineer authorized to practice in Florida. Now, a lot of engineers and architects are not certified in this type of inspection. So we don't have as many inspectors as we need to inspect all the buildings that need to be inspected. All right. So in your town, if a building's over 3 stories, and you're a real estate agent, it might be prudent to do a little research and contact the HOA or COA and say, where are you guys in the process of this? Because there's blacklisted buildings right now that we can't get. They're called warranted or non-warranted condos. And it's a
Hmm.
big segment of our market. Um, what is it? This I didn't actually have the answer to this one. What is an SIRS study?
Structural integrity reserve study.
Exactly. So that's a study that says, does the association have enough reserves in the bank to handle these problems if they need to? Like my association is a homeowners association. We have $1 million in the bank, but we have to maintain our roads, and we have 3.5 miles of roads. So it's expensive. If those roads get damaged, we have to have the money to replace them, and we do because it's been budgeted for properly. So a condo is a big HOA vertical, and that's it. So this is to make sure the structural integrity, like Bella Soul condos here in Apollo Beach, they didn't have the reserves to maintain their integrity. So what do they have to do?
They had to raise the funds one way or another, whether
Mhm.
it's through special assessments, one-time assessments, or raising the monthly dues, or a combination of all.
And in this case, they raised the monthly dues to like $1,100 a month, I think.
Correct, yeah.
It's a big, big number. Um, we know about rescinding of condominiums. You get 3 days for a resale, 15 days for a new condo.
But
So you
that's changed
got,
now. The new ones say 7.
that's right. Oh, well, this was for 15 days for this question. But you're right. Now we have 7 days review condo docs
Yeah, the new
for
condo
resale.
rider gives a resale condo buyer 7 days.
This one was interesting because I've had this question come up in the last week, and let's talk about it for a brief moment. Licensees who list resale timeshares must disclose to sellers in writing that there's no guarantee that the timeshare can be sold at a particular price or within any particular time. True or false? Pretty simple. It's true. You can't guarantee a price or a time frame, but timeshares have become an issue, and a couple of agents have asked about them. And as your broker, I'm saying run. It's a
Yeah.
different beast. It's a different animal. It is just, and they really aren't marketable.
It's kind of like it's along the lines of like business broker, timeshare, like those things when you're looking at those. Unless you've done it before, have the knowledge, have someone who's going to walk you through that process, understands it and knows it, have all of the contracts in place, have all the disclosures in place, know exactly what you're getting into. You probably shouldn't be messing with it. Like those are some really serious things and have some serious implications for both of those.
That's like going to the knee doctor and asking them to operate in your heart. You say, you know what? I'm going to refer you to my friend who's this. And if you Google it, there's actually a bunch of law firms out there
Yeah.
that say your timeshare is not marketable, period. I can get you out of it. Because the problem with the timeshare is there's annual fees and there's no checks and balances on the annual fees. So they go up every year. And a lot of people buy their timeshare thinking they're going to go there all the time, and years go by and they never go there. So they put $30,000 down and they bought their timeshare and they want to get their 30,000 bucks back. But now the fees that were so low to entice them to buy are substantially higher, and nobody wants to give them 30 grand and pay those fees to maintain the membership. It's an ugly, ugly situation. And there's lawyers out there that will not give you any money for it, but they'll at least get you off the hook from paying the annual dues. And it's just, it's not a business we want to be into. So I'm going to say no to your timeshare listings. Um, I just thought these are interesting things that we have to think about that come across. Um, all non-homesteaded property tax assessments may increase no more than 10% of the just value of the property from the prior year. True or false? This is where you got to
Non
read the question. Non-homestead.
non-homesteaded. True.
True. That was a new law that passed. Non-homesteaded properties can't go up more than 10% a year, which is fine in 2025. But back in 2020, when they were going up 15 or 20% a year, that was a godsend that we got. You know what's on the ballot now for Florida?
Yeah, there's a couple things on the ballot or discussions. One of them was to increase the homestead exemption to $70,000 for a
Mhm.
homestead property, and then they're also discussing, and I don't know if this one's on the ballot. That's to remove property
Property
taxes
taxes.
from homestead properties.
Yeah. So what are they pushing? There's this guy I read, Robert Kiyosaki is a financial guru. And his tax person is a guy named Tom Wheelwright. And Tom writes a bunch of articles. I subscribe to his newsletters. And he is big on tax savings. And he says the government tells you where they want you to put your money, and they give you incentives from your income taxes if you follow their guidelines.
Yeah.
So, what is the Florida government saying? Buy a home and live in it, and we will reward you. We're going to reward you by not raising your property taxes every year to give you a break. Because if you're renting, your property taxes for the owner are going to go up, and who are they going to pass that along to? Tenant. It's just going to happen.
Yep.
Um, Homeowners can transfer their Save Our Homes benefit. Most people don't have any clue about this, by the way, to a new home if they had the homestead exemption on the old home in any of the previous 5 years. Careful.
Not any, it needs to be two.
It's 3. You have to have lived in it for one of the 3 years. Yeah, it's back here. I didn't have that one right either. Paragraph number 8. The statement is false. Portability of the Save Our Homes benefit is available for homeowners who had homestead exemptions on their old home after 2006 and who purchase a new homestead, period. Homeowners can transfer their Save Our Homes benefit to a new home if they had the homestead exemption on the old home for any of the previous 3 years. Huh. So, should we be giving advice on how to take advantage of the Save Our Homes benefit? The answer is no. What does the contract say?
Consult the proper professionals.
Yes. I didn't know about the 2006 homes after 2006. So a home in 2002 may not enjoy that benefit. There may be some caveat to it, but a tax person's who'd ask for about that, not your real estate agent or your realtor. This is interesting. The contractor's law allows unlicensed persons to perform work in which the total contract price is less than $1,000. True or false? I didn't know that one either. The answer is true.
I
As
would
long
say
as the
true.
total contract price for labor, materials, and other items are less than $1,000, an unlicensed person may perform their work. I didn't realize this over time. I'll tell you a real quick story. So I've a property that I have, the shower head broke. And when I bought the property, it was renovated and everything looked pretty and new, but they used cheap materials, as it turns out. So the shower handle broke. Well, to me, it's real simple. You get a hex key, you tighten the knot, and the shower handle works. But this used plastic components on the inside, and they're stripped. So I need a new faucet. So I go over and I take the faucet plate off and I look inside and I can see the valves, but there's only a hole this big in the tile wall. And to get to the bolts that need to undo the caps on the plumbing to take the valve out, I'd have to cut a bigger hole in the wall. And chances are I'm not going to find the tile to match that hole. So a simple little problem, which is why when you escrow money for closing and you don't know what goes on behind the wall, there's a problem. So it turns out we can cut a hole in the closet behind this wall, there's room, and you can get in and solve the problem. But I called a plumber to do the job. And this is just it really pisses me off. So the plumber comes out, super nice girl, and she goes to her little iPad and comes up with an answer, and it's $1,350. And I lost my shit in a nice way. And I said, okay, let me just assume that you're going to get me a faucet and you deserve to mark it up. And I know I can buy a faucet for $100. So I'm going to give you $300 for the faucet because you're going to go pick it up and bring it back. And that's fair. And let's assume that you're worth $300 an hour, which is more than I pay some attorneys. Right? And let's assume it's a 2-hour job. 300, 600, and the faucet's 300, that's $900. And you're going to charge me $1,350? Do you have like malpractice insurance and all this shit? So the girl didn't know what to do. She was kind of trembly and she called the office, and a half hour later they came back and said they'll do it for $950. And I said, no, my new price is $700. And I was just pissed. And then I got a Google review saying, how was your experience? And I said, the technician was wonderful. but I'll never do business with your company again. And I explained why. So be careful when you shop. So this $1,000 thing, I can get a handyman to fix that as long as it's less than $1,000. And that's my proof right there. And I know a handyman, and he's going to go over. My daughter took pictures, and he can cut a hole in the drywall. I can cut a hole in the drywall. He can go to, and I'm not going to go to Home Depot because apparently the faucets at Home Depot are cheaper than the ones from a plumbing store. But still, I'm not going to spend $300 on a faucet. So there you go. Contractors law allows unlicensed persons to perform work in which the total contract price is less than $1,000, and that includes labor. So now you got something to go with. And it's interesting. Go through your real estate book, and there's some really cool things in there because we are in this industry. So there is your real life real estate for today, October 13th, 2025. If you like this, give me a hands up and I'll do more. If you don't, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, and I'll stop talking about stupid stuff like this. But I think it is interesting. Oh, I'm getting hands up. Look at that. You guys, that's what makes me so proud of you all. You just want to do a good job, and that's important. Very good. Cool. All right. Well, I'll see the managers at 11, and everybody else, let's make it a super productive week. Take advantage of the things we're bringing your way. We're not
Yeah.
making this stuff up, right? These builders are I was talking to my neighbors this morning while we're walking, and they were like, really? Yeah, because they all bought in 2000 when the market was hot and they got their low interest rates and they got their low prices. And they said, those poor people can't buy like that anymore. I said, yeah, they can. They looked at me like I had horns coming out of my head.
Yep.
Yes, they can. What?
I'd stop waiting for interest rates. You can already get rates in the fives. The rates are already, you can get them into the fours right now. So the opportunities are there. You just need to know where to look. You have to be willing to think outside the box, and everything's right there in front of you. All the opportunities are
Yeah.
there.
And tune in to your broker briefings in the morning and then tune in for your local market updates and see what's going on because your managers are working hard to bring you relevant data. So there we go. Together, each achieves more. See you guys for tomorrow's broker briefing, then individual office meetings. Happy Monday.
Yep. Happy
Thanks,
Monday.
Chris. Bye all.